Welcome to another
what's going on?
episode of Bobby's Cryptid Corner. I'm Bree.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Bobby of the Cryptid Corner.
Welcome, everybody.
Man.
We're
have
back
a heavy
yet
one.
again. Yeah, this is a dense topic. Do we want to talk about anything else, or do we just want to jump right into it?
I don't know. We've had a lot of stuff going on. This is an episode I think that we've been wanting to do. But man, it's dense, like Bobby said. There's a lot of moving parts, I think, when it comes to the story. And like most things that have carried on in the conspiracy world, it starts as one thing and then it just keeps branching and branching and branching onto all these other things, which makes it a little hard to put in a pretty packet to show to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just do kind of the treetop overview, and then maybe talk about some modern mythology with this, and of course, as always, we're going to factor sci-fi at the end.
It's the best part.
Love to cipher.
Okay, so if you didn't know already, we're covering the always controversial, always taboo subject of the reptilians.
Oh man,
this is a touchy one for a lot of people, not just outside the conspiracy world, but also inside the conspiracy world. It's kind of a bridge too far for a lot of people that are open to fringe topics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the whole like anti-Semitic conspiracy side of things is relatively derivative of this topic. That's one of the ways they smeared David Icke, who we'll be talking about later on in the episode. But it's basically the kind of granddaddy of them all. It's the global elite conspiracy mixed with within the cryptid realm, within ancient alien theory. We see him in abduction scenarios. It kind of runs the gamut of the entire spectrum of weird stuff we like to talk about. So it's a super deep rabbit hole. And as you were alluding to earlier, Bree, our usual hour to hour and a half episode will likely only scratch the surface. So I want to preface that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start with a brief overview, shall we?
Yes.
Let's view this phenomenon through the lens of ancient origins into modern origins into modern conspiracy theory. But first off, characteristics, and let me know if I'm forgetting anything. Now, I've read accounts that these things are oftentimes, especially more in abduction scenarios or more alien scenarios, are a lot taller or more like folky and robotic type. Yes, Jamie.
Oh no, I was just waving to the audience. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Large stature, but then again, if you get into the shape-shifting side of things that David Icke talks about with the global elite, having the ability to shift to and from a reptilian form into Queen Elizabeth or Madonna or whoever, that would suggest that they're of normal height. I don't know when you're shape-shifting. I don't know if you adjust your height in order to be more appropriately undefined within the human race, but I'm not too sure how that works, to be honest. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to change shape, that's the height, that would be part of it, because if like in your natural form, what if you're only like 2 or 3 feet tall, you can't be a 2 or 3 foot tall human. You know what I mean? If you're trying to blend in with it.
I mean,
so I feel like you would. I mean, you could.
You wanted to be in the cast of Willow.
I was like, but you're not really blending in with the typical crowd.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
So that's the whole point of shape shifting from this perspective, I think, or this context. It's all about blending in, right? So who's to say, in their natural form, perhaps they are larger than the average human. But when shape shifting into one of the global elites, your guess is as good as mine as far as that works. We get a lot of stuff about blood drinking. I don't want to get us banned, but you can derive anything you'd like to from that, from a certain 17 related conspiracy theory of the last couple of years or so.
We're not allowed to talk about adrenochrome or anything.
Oh, you said it already. All right. Well, there's that. There's that
one.
We're live, baby.
Oh, okay.
A lot of that has to do with also it dovetails into the whole like fear feasting thing. A lot of people believe that these cryptids or extraterrestrials or global elites, or whatever we call them, their whole role in our reality, our realm, our matrix is to essentially harvest fear and ingest it as if that's where they got their calories for the day. So take that for what it's worth. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I don't hate the messenger. Okay. I don't,
Yeah.
again, this is a controversial topic. I don't know where I stand on it. Maybe we'll have something different by the end of the show, but it is what it is. And this is one of those things, I was thinking about it earlier. I always talk with you guys. We're like, if you guys tell me not to read a certain author or not to read about a certain topic, that's like the first thing I'm going to go do.
Exactly.
And this is maybe one of the first examples of that for me personally. I remember like talking to people at work a while ago, just they're always like, "Oh, Bobby, he's into weird. He's like the conspiracy theorist or whatever." And I was talking to them about how Washington D.C. is all laid out like with Gnostic symbolism and stuff. And then I was like, "Well, let me tell you about reptilians." And like they got very mad at me for even bringing this up.
Ooh.
So it's like it's like just at least the last couple of years, it seems to have been more acceptable to talk about because we live in a fucking cartoon now. But back in the day, I remember like it was like taboo to talk 9/11 truth. It was taboo to talk reptilians. I remember them smearing Alex Jones back in the day for saying, "Oh, that's the guy that has David Icke on. He's the guy that talks about reptilians," as if like that's a reason to discredit or whatever. Take your pick on that, but I'm not too sure. But the point is, back in the day, this was like a notch slightly more acceptable than like Holocaust denial and some of those more egregious conspiracy theories that are out there. But now we have normalized it in our current cartoon clown world. So let's go.
Oh man. You know, I don't even like the idea that we've normalized it. Well, actually, I don't know. I really don't know. Is that kind of our origins of where all of this comes from?
Yeah, so I mean, there is the modern phenomenon, which I've already kind of nodded to, but this does go back quite a bit.
Far,
it resonates throughout the almost throughout the human memory through mythology and religious texts and things like that. And it transcends all those cultures as well. So your ancient origins are things as basic as like the snake in the Garden of Eden. A lot of people like to tie the Anunnaki to which is the Sumerian gods that came down and created a slave race of humans to mine for gold in South Africa to help their atmosphere or something like that. It's been a while since I read Sitchin's, but a lot of people like to claim that there's some sort of connection between reptilians or that they are reptilians or whatever. Gnostic tradition would be stuff like the archons. So like in 1935, you have the Nag Hammadi codices found in Egypt by a farmer. Is it always a farmer that finds this stuff?
Absolutely. It's always a farmer.
That's just like I noticed that motif all the
it's like that middle
my red flags. I'm like, it can't always be a farmer.
It's like that middle America farmer life. It's the only people that are out there. So that's the people who are finding that shit.
I guess so. But this was some of the Gnostic Gospels were found in there. It was like 13 leather-bound books. You have the Gospels of like Thomas and Philip and a lot of poems about mystical practices and origins of the universe, which in this case was the archons. People have alluded to that perhaps the archons are in fact the reptilians. I think there was some account of descriptions in those Gospels, or some scholar was mentioning how they looked very reptilian and robotic-like, things like that.
That's definitely the origins of how a lot of, I think, the modern day conspiracy part comes from, is just from that, which I think we'll touch base on. But I think it's good to mention, though, that this is probably one of the two and probably the most infamous alien species that has been known for being very parasitic. Like they're the parasites on humanity. I think
aggressive, negative, they're bad, they're the bad guys, they're the villains. There's that motif throughout the entire history of them when it comes to the story.
and at best I've heard that there's like neutral races of reptilians that are kind of like whatever, but the I guess the more like hegemonic mythology is, like you were saying, they're the bad guys, and what goes behind that is the whole fear, the feasting on fear kind of thing. they have us stuck in this matrix in order to offer us into situations that cultivate fear from us, and that's how they get their energy. And that's so that's what that's one of the main, I guess, characteristics as to who they are, why they're here, and where they come from and stuff like that. So
absolutely, definitely feeding on fear. And I think there's a common thought that they are also underground. And it's very interesting because back in the 1930s, it was January 29th, 1934, the LA Times ran a front page headline, and it was Lizard People's Catacombs Cities. And this was about a 5,000-year-old city that was said to be basically underneath Los Angeles. And it was going to be excavated by, using an X-ray device of made of an unknown type. Actually, it was never said what this mysterious device was, other than it had some type of X-ray capabilities. By G. Warren Schufelt, and he was a geological mining engineer. And so he was kind of led into this conspiracy because he said that he built this X-ray device, and that using it led him to this particular area in LA. And then because of that, he kind of fell into looking into different Native American tribe legends. And one of them was a Hopi legend.
It always goes back to the Native Americans, like with all these stories that we talk about. Isn't it interesting that it just keeps continuing to go and go and go back to there?
Yeah,
it always does.
There's some,
and that's one of those things that always transcends both like Western religion or Western mythology, and you can still find those connections even on the other side of the globe with Native stuff, to a degree at least. There's a lot of similarities there. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, but you have a great point that there always seems to be some type of connection with that. And so this Hopi is kind of a mixture of legends, actually, but the main one with this Hopi legend was a tale about their snake brothers who built underground cities. And it was underground California, Arizona, Mexico, Central America. But one of the biggest underground cities was believed to be in the Pacific West Coast, particularly under the LA, California area. And so I think it's a mixture of what he found, and then who knows what kind of proof he actually had from this weird X-ray thing that he had. But he claimed that with this X-ray device that there were 16 places that had these hidden gold deposits underneath. And which is really interesting because, people, like Bobby mentioned, try to tie the Anunnaki with the reptilians, and I don't believe that's the case. However, a huge part of the Anunnaki story is all derived from gold. That's their main focus, kind of why they're here, why we were supposedly manufactured into race, was all to basically mine their gold.
Yeah, and there's this theory that realistically the Anunnaki, not realistically, but theoretically the Anunnaki came down and that they created humans, but at the same time also created a reptilian race. And they created humans and this reptilian race for two different reasons. They created humans to be these like slaves and drones, and they created reptilians to kind of like rule over them and make sure that they were doing their job.
Keeping them in check.
So
anyway, this story, though, gets a little bit weird. Oh, go on, Bobby.
Oh, I was just going to comment on the whole gold thing. Is like you see that throughout this story, you see it throughout the Anunnaki, and then you think about it, it's like gold itself is like, why do humans find gold like innately valuable? It isn't particularly used for anything practical at all. It's just like we have this. Like,
it's just hard to find. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to find things.
Go after gold, and gold. The gold standard, like gold rarely loses a value. Gold always survives like a fiat crash or whatever it is. Like it's always like but why? Like, we have this inherent affinity and desire for it for whatever reason, and maybe that is a product of some sort of genetic tampering.
I'm gonna agree that is probably one timeline, but I refuse to be a part of that timeline.
Oh, okay. You,
Mhm.
it's not in your reality.
Absolutely not.
That's fine.
But it's
I
in
get it.
someone's reality.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So anyway, so this guy and his X-ray device and these 16 huge gold deposit areas under LA. He basically speaks with the city of LA, and they decide where they're going to start mining this area to see if they can get to this underground city. And it was 518 North Hill Street. So by Sunset, Spring and North Broadway. And this was supposed to be the biggest, the largest chamber area that he said existed. So that's where they were supposed to go. And he made a deal with the city. If, whatever gold he was going to find, he was going to split 50-50. So it was kind of like, okay, deal. But it was like several months later, as soon as they start digging down, I believe he reached about 250 feet down below ground. Everything just got completely plummeted by mud. And months later, his mysterious X-ray device disappears. So he no longer knows where he's going. And so the city shuts down the operation, and there's no other word about the project said again. But Warren still went on to say basically the whole narrative that underneath LA is this giant ancient city that was built by these lizard people, and that they were far more advanced than us, and this civilization basically thrived and was there because of the gold deposits, and that they were the ones that were there in the first place before us. So we just like built on top of this ancient civilization.
Interesting. Yeah, because that almost goes into the whole like Tartaria stuff and how like the old world was reset and we built the new world on top of it and all that stuff, which is a totally different episode altogether. But I'm getting a lot of dumb vibes as well. Like if we subscribe to there being deep underground military bases connected by, underground highways of, those really fast trains that they have in Japan or something like that. That whole thing. Yeah. And I would think like, I just, that was a kind of a gut reaction to what you were just saying there. So who knows?
That's interesting. That's a good connection there. And there's a lot of stories too you can find, of course, on the internet, but I think I've even come across like paranormal shows of people that talk about being in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, like at the bottom by some drains, some creepy like lizard creature comes out and kind of scares the shit out of them. And it's interesting to hear that tie of whether or not these people even know that back in the 30s, that was just something that was printed and something that someone said. But it also goes back to these not ancient, but these Hopi legends that there were lizard people underground. There's always some type of truth, whether or not it's to that extent. There's always, I think, a little bit of truth in all of those stories. So it kind of starts from there. And then, of course, conspiracy theories just kind of have a mind of their own.
They just continue to grow, especially as the more and more people start talking about them. Everybody adds their little flavor of spice to them. So it just continues and morphs into something completely different. It's like this big, giant game of telephone.
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say it's like telephone.
Yeah. And, fast forwarding up to, I guess, the more modern, relatively modern literary accounts would be like Helena Blavatsky, who I believe was Russian. She's like kind of the founder of Theosophy, which is like some sort of like weird Western esotericism. I think she has some ties to secret societies or something. I'm not an expert on her, but she had a book in like, I want to say the 1880s called The Secret Doctrine. And it's actually referenced, she references dragon men. And the book is all about like how the world used to be and the ancient knowledge and the ancient mysticism and how it's all been hidden away. And yeah, she has a brief mention of dragon men who once had a civilization on the Lemurian continent. Again, not an expert in any of this, but that's kind of our first relatively modern hint at this stuff. And then we have in 1929 sci-fi fantasy author Robert E. Howard, who's known for like Conan the Barbarian, who's a comic book artist, published a issue of Weird Tales with a story called The Shadow Kingdom about, you know, puppet master reptilian creatures that control things.
Of course.
On the surface. But then we have those two examples, and then, you know, there's a few accounts here and there between now and where I want to get to now is you know, British footballer turned investigative journalist David Icke.
Yes.
He's been talking about this since like the late 90s. I want to say the first book he references it as The Biggest Secret, and then he did like Children of the Matrix. I've read excerpts from each and have watched quite a few speeches from this guy, lectures from this guy. I have a very love-hate with David Icke, but he is the guy that popularized the idea that the global elite, whether it be the Rothschilds, the Bush family, the British royalty, celebrities, banking cartels,
that's a great picture.
Leaders of NGOs are all actually shape-shifting reptilians that are controlling the world.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you briefly mentioned earlier, though, that he kind of grabbed these connections from the Gnostic texts and from the Dead Sea Scrolls, where they talk about these archons, and so he kind of put the pieces together. Or to him, he feels like that makes sense, that these reptilians are the archons that are being talked about in these ancient texts, and that they appear to be humans on Earth, but really they're just masking their reptilian form,
which is something that could like the research could have been done in an honest way. And not to say that it wasn't, but it would also be very easy to take like derivative mythologies like that and construct a narrative and apply it to modern society to sell books. Like, it's like just crazy enough to be compelling for people to gravitate towards it. And it's just kind of like, the guy makes some good points a lot of times, like whether you want to like subscribe to the reptile thing or not. You're like,
but is that not something that we find a common theme in what we talk about with a lot of these people? Sometimes they have really good information, but like the vehicle and them as a human being is just kind of a shitty way to bring it out there. And it just kind of sucks because it's like, we want to have some of this information, but them as a human being kind of sucks. So it's like, you don't want to subscribe to it. Exactly.
Right. And it's not like he's a bad guy, though. He's not. I mean, at the end of the day, he pushes this crazy conspiracy shit out, right? And it like freaks people out. But at the end of the day, he does always get back to like, well, you just have to balance yourself from the heart. And I think he really does push a lot that people need to connect with their heart and learn to live with their heart and see each other as equal and live through love. And that's kind of the only way that we can overcome these dark archonic forces that, you know, are kind of feeding off of humanity like we're a bunch of hosts.
Which, and if you want to be cynical about it and dismiss the guy, I mean, that's pretty resonant throughout a lot of different hopeful religions that people, you know, grasp.
Absolutely. That's true. That is absolutely true. And I also, it's kind of easy, I think, to pick something as the bad guy. I mean, just in the simplest form that there are, I think the greatest way I've heard him explain these archonic reptilian forces is like that they are basically a computer virus that's been implanted in humanity, and it kind of just spreads. And that's what's pulling the strings behind the scenes, you know, when all of the political different factions and banking systems and
fostering fear.
Exactly. And I think it's easy to believe that there is a bad guy doing that because we see that there are bad people. We see that there are people that really only care about themselves that are pulling the strings behind humanity. And so maybe like the realistic term for them would just be a bunch of psychopaths.
Right.
But in his term, he's saying, no, they're actually these reptilian
So
shape-shifting creatures.
if I want to be a skeptic here about this mythology, which I pretty much am, like it's pretty easy to say, okay, what is a reptile? Kind of this lacking of compassion or humanity, like driven by the id, impulsive, instinctual, like no sympathy for. That's kind of the stereotype, right? And then you throw on top of that like our evolutionary fear of like snakes in the bush and things like that. And you get into all this stuff, and then you look at like the Garden of Eden. There's this just running motif of like reptiles being the evil bad guy throughout history, and it can be extracted from mythology and put back into kind of a more conventional, tangible setting. So who's to say, like, okay, if as humans in a culture or whatever, we innately have this aversion or fear of the reptile for whatever reason, why wouldn't we project that sociopath, id-driven, evil entity archetype onto like a tyrannical leader or someone that pulls the strings behind? You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like you're applying the mythology of the reptile onto someone that is oppressive or whatever throughout time.
It happens to be every single person that is disliked, I think, in a public setting.
Yep.
Those are always the people, and we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the show, I think, is when we'll really get into deeply the different people that they are being accused of it.
Yeah. I just definitely want to mention, though, that Bobby did mention how, there are some like good ones. So of course it's going to be like anything, right? I mean, I am so curious to know what other civilizations think of humanity, like what their overall picture is of us when it comes to different energies and what our purpose or our end game, like our goal is, but when it comes to reptilians, we've definitely all kind of agreed that they're overall the parasites of humanity. But in this reptilian lore, there are, I guess, a hierarchy of reptilians, and you have hybrid reptilians, and you have these full bloods. So there's full bloods and then crossbreeds. Of course, the crossbreeds are the hybrids, which would just be reptilians and humans all together. And apparently these hybrids don't know that they are part reptilian, and they're the ones that are being controlled by these lower fourth dimensional reptilians for to compromise and control Earth. And these pure bloods, those are the pure evil draconian reptilians. They come from Draco constellations, and they're the ones that have altered DNA and have used the hybrids for human control. They're the ones responsible for putting the reptilian part in our brain and creating these bloodlines to kind of restructure humanity and put humans under disguise. And it is interesting when you think about the fact that we have a reptilian brain, and that is kind of the part of us that is aggressive and dominant and territorial and all that. But I think it's interesting that if I listened to a lot of different psychics and stuff, and it seems like an overwhelming theme I see in a lot of psychics that read cosmic history is that these reptilians, that whole lot, like that whole story is actually a lie. And that it's mainly put into place because if we believe that, that just gives them more control over us, that we believe, okay, then they were here first, that we are a part of them if they did have something to do with our genetics and creating that parts of us. And it just gives them more control to take that kind of storyline, if that makes sense. And I feel like I kind of agree. I can see that making more sense than that we really are just these lower beings compared to these evil creatures, personally.
Well said.
Very.
So it's I don't know. It's I think it goes from there. There's some truth, there's some craziness, and then now they have been painted into everyone that every hated person in the public eye.
Yeah, it's a pejor. It's like a just a passe pejorative now. Like it's not even like people just say it in jest to describe unliked people with power, right? Like you can say, "Oh, that guy's a fucking lizard person," like whether or not you believe in it or not, which is kind of funny when you think about it. How that's
It is, and it's like crazy. I mean, off the top of our heads, we can think of everyone thinks that the Queen, right? Queen Elizabeth is pretty much the head honcho of all of the reptilians and all that
that we're allowed
shit.
to see at least.
Right. That we're allowed to see. And it's
She's
like
a
Justin
placeholder.
Bieber.
That's the next one after the Queen you went to is the Biebs.
I mean, I put Justin Bieber above the Queen any day. I don't
Oh, I probably would too.
I don't
I
care
feel like
about royals.
as much as I'm not a
period.
Biebs fan, I feel like he's contributed more to my life than the Queen has. So
Exactly.
or had a bigger impact on my life.
I just want to say thank you to Josh and Artemis and the Josh and Artemis show for donating 25 aliens to us. That's $25. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you,
Go sub to
guys. That's so
them.
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you.
So nice. Who else? It's like Taylor Swift.
Madonna
Oprah.
is one of the classic celebrity.
She's another one. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely.
My-
They have
my
all
Google-
these videos.
I think that the reptilian kind of conspiracy kind of a little bit goes hand in hand with the Illuminati when it comes to the whole celebrity side of it. It's like everybody's fucking a part of it. It's like if you're a celebrity, you're lumped either into the Illuminati or the reptilian, or maybe they cross over and you're a reptilian in the Illuminati. Yeah.
Well, I
the
guess that we
modern-
missed that then because it is supposed to be the Illuminati. So maybe we
Right.
forgot to mention that, but they're
that goes
symbiotic.
without saying.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that the Illuminati, this is where they come from.
This is the top echelon.
This is the Illuminati.
Okay, I just
struggle with
Googled
this.
celebrity reptilians, and I'm just gonna click on images and tell you
Okay,
guys
just
who
click on
comes
them.
up.
Okay.
One of the very first ones is Mark Zuckerberg.
Of course.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Buy
trying
it.
to submit us into
Mhm.
an actual matrix right now, which is
That's
quite-
true.
Avril Lavigne. Interesting. Oh, that's a clone picture. Never mind. Yeah, it's just the Zuck. It's a lot of Zuck. Angelina Jolie, Miley Cyrus, and then of course the royal family, the Obamas, the Bushes, all kinds of those big names that you can think of
Clintons.
have been accused of this. And you know, I'm honestly I'm 50-50 on that. So
You're full of it. No, and it's stupid. All these videos, people do these like freeze by like this. One, and these are more, I'm trying to find the word without okay. To me, it's much easier to attach CGI to these videos than some of these UFO videos that we've been looking at that were like CGI, CGI. These are worse. And it's like they're zooming in, it's pixelated. So obviously the face distorts. And then they're like, look it, they're shifting. Oh, and by the way, they're shifting because they can only hold their persona, they can only like keep their shape-shifting
Oh, yeah,
body like in
Beyonce.
place for so long before they have to switch back and reveal
See,
themselves to you.
every time I look at these videos, I always got to watch them a couple times. Like, what are they even talking about? And like you were saying, Brie, like this is so easy to do in like Final Cut Pro or like Adobe Premiere or something like that. Like it's not like, that's one thing I want to like point out with all this kind of stuff is like the internet is driven by clicks. Like I would click on this
just to watch it. Yeah,
people are motivated by incentive and making money, and if getting clicks creates that, you got to remember, you got to take all this with a grain of salt. So it's like, all right, well, that's kind of compelling, assuming that it's real in the first place, right? But to be fair, Beyonce is definitely up there, I think.
A reptilian? You think so? Really?
Her and Jay-Z are like Illuminati as fuck.
I feel like
no,
I feel like
she
one of the other
said
theories is like once they groom these people, once they groom these people, they just insert like a reptilian clone to represent them or something like that.
that's like probably the biggest one that gets me that people say. I'm just like, it just makes me want to like slit my eyeballs just to just hearing you say that literally makes me want to poke my eyeball out.
What, the clone thing?
Yes. And just thinking of Jay-Z and Beyonce, like those celebrities, you really think that they are that
I didn't say that.
powerful? No, I mean just like people think that certain celebrities are that high up there. When I think of true Illuminati, like really people that are pulling the strings behind all of humanity's like wars and all of our issues.
Yeah,
and
but they need
I think
influencers.
It's so much higher than.
They need influencers within pop culture, and then, like Operation Mockingbird and all that stuff about propaganda and like occultism through media. Like it all makes sense when you go down that road. So,
she looks pretty with those eyes.
I think so too.
Minaj.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty. Down to where, I should get reptilian contacts, like reptile eye contacts, and wear them on a show someday. I think that would be fun. But these things, you really gotta freaking be careful. So I was mentioning earlier to you guys didn't know what I was talking about, but this girl, I keep saying her name wrong. Sherry Shriner. I watched a Hulu docuseries thing on her. And she was fucking batshit crazy about this kind of stuff. She wrote books on it. And she was taking like biblical texts and then also mixing it with this reptilian theory. And she was pushing it on people on a podcast and on YouTube and really convinced thousands of people that this is a true battle between like Jesus and the devil and the lizard people, and that we're basically fighting every day to not have an alien invasion by the reptilians. And like she got rich off that shit. People turned on each other. People died, they did. Murdered each other. It was just fucking
and that kind of goes back to what I was saying. Is like it's so easy to cherry pick various mythology and kind of rework it in your own way, and next thing you know, you started a cult. I'd like to advise all people in the chat and listening right now, please don't join any cults, especially
please don't join any cults.
Please don't. Please. It was so funny because a friend of mine actually told me to watch it and it was like, these people are fucking crazy. Like, how do people believe this? So I watch it and I'm laughing because I'm just like, dude, I know so many people that actually believe a lot of this stuff.
A lot of this stuff, yeah.
Like, this is not new to me. Unfortunately, this is not new. It ties everything. Everything is so tied together.
That makes two of us.
Can we
separate it?
No, man, it's all connected.
I just want to say thank you to Psyops Apocalypse, who bought us 3 aliens, $15. Thank you so much, love. We appreciate you and your donations.
Sweet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys are the best.
The best.
But I was like, damn, this is embarrassing because it had so much to do with aliens. And I was like, fuck, of course they can't take one topic and then like keep it okay. It was like fucking clusterfuck of
and I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but isn't the reptilian
do it
like present in the abduction scenario, or is that kind of an overblown?
I think it is both. Jamie was earlier said no, but it is.
I mean, I think it is a little bit, but I think the thing that people think about when it comes to reptilians, they don't think about alien abductions like you do when you think about Greys or the Greens or other aliens and stuff like that. When you think about the reptilians, you think of them being as more kind of like an energy vampire kind of parasite kind of being. I mean, there's some very small instances, I think. I just don't think it's like a big giant thing where reptilians are abducting people. That's all.
So what about like the whole Draco thing within the hybrid theory and stuff like the hybrid abduction thing? Aren't there reptilians in those scenarios sometimes?
Sometimes,
I'm
yeah.
just asking, yeah.
Sometimes. That's what I'm saying. It's not just when people think about it, the first thing you don't think about is like alien abductions. Like it's just, that's not what's technically associated with reptilians. That's all. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I would say alien visitations for sure.
Visitations for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's literally there, like Jamie said, to like fucking suck the energy out of you. And I do believe that they are. Well, now I'm gonna fucking back myself in a corner here.
Here, do it. You always do. You do. I love this.
I agree with Glitch 100p.
I guess I do believe that they are the reason behind adrenochrome.
You said it twice now.
Said it twice now.
I didn't know that I'm like not allowed to say it. How about the reason behind young wine?
Is that the PC term for it now?
Okay.
Yeah, young wine is just like blood, young, because it's like fresh out the womb wine. Baby wine.
Jesus
innocent
Christ,
wine.
Right. I like this.
Screaming innocent.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Psychopolyps.
Psyops apocalypse. Maybe the reptilians would start a show and call it Bobby's Cryptid Corner just to get people informed about their soon-to-be overlords. That's quite possible. Yeah. All three of us might be reptilians. That's 100%
revelation
a possibility.
Of the method.
I love that. That's
We're
the new.
You guys know.
It's the new conspiracy theory of the year. Thank you. I love that.
We went rogue to warn you guys about our.
We tried.
Our
this is not rogue agenda. For that one time though. Like this is the kind of shit that this is the kind of shit we've always been talking about, you know. I think that we did a really good I think that we did a really good young wine episode.
Young wine.
Glitch 100p. I agree with you again. You and I got to chit chat.
Let me find it.
I think that we did a really good episode on babies wine.
Yeah.
I think
baby wine.
And I think that we really did like, okay, this makes sense to me. And the roots of that going all the way back to like the Nazi times, right? And with the Vril Society doing the same exact things. And it's so interesting that a huge part of these aliens that they made contact with and went off planet, that went to Antarctica and then went off planet to Mars and the moon, was the Draco. So to me, that's a big. They're married.
Word.
Did I go off there?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean that's what we do, but not any more or less than what we usually would.
But I mean, and yeah, so that kind of goes back to the secret space program.
Wait. Yeah, I think we need to wait. Pause time out. I think we need to. There's a letter in the alphabet that I do not want to say, and nobody say the letter in the alphabet I'm talking about, okay? But people are saying it. Don't even say it. People are saying it in the chat. We do not associate that with that at all. We are not in that camp at all. We're not talking about it. So do not
Those
worry. We're not
people that made it not okay to talk about this anymore.
I was like, we can't. Don't worry. We're not talking about it, guys.
Yeah.
God, don't get your panties in a bunch. Jesus.
Everyone calm down.
We're the number one people that we're not. We even had an episode actually with Bobby to talk about it because Jamie and I were like, no, not believers, never will be believers.
Mm-hmm. We literally did an entire show about it.
But I think that's actually a great point that whoever brought it up, because that is another instance where one conspiracy starts and it takes all the other conspiracy theories and they just combine them all together. It's the same thing with
it's called an op.
what Sherry Shriner did is she took things and she combined it all together. So
Mhm.
now that letter in the alphabet took all those other conspiracies and put it under their wing when these
Mhm.
have been there millennia
And now
before that letter in
anytime
the alphabet.
that's one theory as to why that op was so successful is anytime you bring this shit up now, people are automatically like, you're one of those people. I'm like, bitch, I've been talking about this shit way before that. So.
It was way before that. This goes back to beyond the 30s, my friends. And
so does the Donald Trump time travel thing with Tesla and all that. So
It does.
the theories here that we speak about go a lot deeper than modern day. Like that letter in the alphabet is like, to me, the newest conspiracy train, and it's so fucking lame. Anyway.
She's so fucking lame.
so fucking lame. Yeah. So do we want to factor sci-fi this? Like, how do you guys want to do this?
I mean, how are we factor sci-fiing it? Here's my question about that. Are we factor sci-fiing it as like reptilians as a whole, or like I feel like there's so many factors to it because there's
That's
so many
what we
levels.
talk about when you make your case for factor sci-fi. That's where all that comes in.
Okay,
I remember, hold on. I really want to respond to that JFK Jr. I'll never forget when we did an episode with Mike Barra. It was probably the last one. And he's like convincing us of the letter in the alphabet thing. And we're just like, oh my God, Mike. And then he's like, yeah, like JFK Jr. is going to come back. And he like told about all this stuff and was like, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's like next week. Next week doesn't happen. No, it's next week.
It's next week.
Happens, so it doesn't happen. And it's just like, okay, so we're like a year or two later now, and it never fucking happened.
And it never happened. He never showed up.
And I've been seeing that conspiracy kind of pop up again. I've been seeing it on TikTok a few times, and I'm like, are we still doing this?
Oh yeah, they're still doing that one.
It's waiting for Jesus to come back.
It's like, or when people predict the end of the world, it's like they can't stop talking about it.
And that was on one of our very first episodes, actually, was how people that try to predict the end of days, they give a date and it never happens. And then they're just like, oh, I got to reconfigure my numbers.
Or in a different timeline, it did happen. Okay.
That's true, Bobby. Good point.
I always think about
so
that.
Maybe he did come back. We just
all the
weren't
doomsdayers, like, what if it did happen? And they just like continued on to a different timeline, and then that's a real photo right there. I think.
I was like, what do you guys think about that one?
Wait a second. Where's my young blood picture?
I don't know. I don't have that on me right now. I don't have your young blood picture. If you could try to pull it up and Google it, you could try.
Do you think I can Google us? Would that pop?
I was like, it's probably on our SoundCloud if you do it.
Let me ask you guys this: Do we consider, like, this is Bobby's cryptid corner? Is this a cryptid? Like, this is like I said, like it's kind of a combination of everything, but it can be because we talked about the horse swamp,
mother's milk,
man or whatever.
Yeah, the swamp ore.
Milk.
And who's to say? And we said, who is to say that wasn't maybe a reptilian who escaped from underground and somebody saw it or something like that, right? I feel like here, Brie,
you get in the Bigfoot thing is like, well, sometimes you have like more wild Bigfoots that are just running around being Bigfoots in the woods and doing Bigfoot things, and then you have your interdimensional ones, then you have the ones that come down from UFOs.
And who's to say it's not just a Bigfoot whose all of its hair got burnt off? And it just looks like a reptile. Yeah.
Well, reptiles have scales and they look, I don't know. It's interesting too. Like, this is how stupid my brain goes is, if you get into like the whole Joseph Campbell thing, like the hero's journey, and like Star Wars, like resonated so well with so many people because it was telling this deeply rooted, like, story that all humans can relate to, the good versus evil, the arc of the hero's journey and all that shit.
Hero's journey is real life, man. That's basically
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying is like, okay, so Star Wars was very successful for
I got you, Brie.
but the narrative of Star Wars is a
Can we
classic.
bring it up close?
Yeah,
That's
this
as
is
big as
that's
I can
fact.
get it. No,
Oh,
this is
no.
big as I can get it. Oh wait, there we go. How's that?
Oh, she looks like my grandma right there.
There you go.
Oh.
That's,
Fact.
you see that baby one? That's that baby
All right,
one right
please,
there.
please
Look
close
at those
that up.
titties.
You want that close? You don't want to stare at that one anymore?
I'm
I'm
good.
sorry.
I think I've seen enough.
Do you know
Okay,
how
that's
much fun
fine.
I had doing that?
You made that.
It gives me nightmares. Bree
Back in
did
the
she
day
make-
before
she
I
was-
had like easier things to make pictures with. It took me a fucking lifetime.
Word.
Is that Brie as a kid? No, that's me now.
Oh.
That's her now.
These
100%.
extensions pull off the hair and it's all.
It's her under there, exactly. All right, so all right, Bobby, why don't you go first? You tell us give us your fact or sci-fi. What's your number on this one?
Boy.
Wait, should we create camps?
What do you mean
What do you
camps?
mean?
Because like I might
Mhm.
sci-fi things and then fact others. So like we should make camps.
Okay, just Bree, give
Bree,
us.
you go first. You set-
go
you
first.
set the
You
precedent.
set the fucking precedent. Go for it.
I hate why you guys gotta put that shit on me.
You want to make camps and fucking
Yeah, so you tell us how this fucking goes.
put a tent
Okay.
up.
Okay. Put a tent. Fuck yeah, I want
Mhm.
t-shirts. Okay, it's getting really serious.
They're really serious, guys. I'm gonna tell you about all these fucking camps I'm into.
Okay, I would like to split it up into shapeshifters,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
bloodlines.
Okay.
There's some overlap there,
Wait,
but okay.
should
Mhm.
I know? But okay, wait. So then, how about the
Ooh.
bloodlines are also? Fuck. I need
Okay.
help.
I'm let me
I was
take
like,
this.
Bree,
Let's
oh,
pass
Jesus.
the flashlight back to me, please.
See,
In our little campfire.
Yeah, you can have it.
scenario
You can
here.
fucking have it, please.
Think
pass the
you know,
baton.
nepotism,
Somebody's
ancient
got to.
bloodlines, nepotism, powerful elites, all that stuff's like real as the day is long. Like it is, like that shit is tangible reality. I think the same way that wealth gets passed down through the generations, so does power and influence and things like that, dominance, things like that. So all that, like, I could see where you could easily that kind of role attracts a certain type of people too. In order to do that job, you basically have to be a psychopath / sociopath with, like, you have to make the tough decisions. Think about how a lot of people say, like, CEOs are a lot of times they're sociopaths because they have to, put aside their compassion, their mammalian compassion, and make the tough decisions. So at the very top, I can see where you could apply the reptilian characteristics to those people. Here's what I'm gonna straight middle bitch.
Bobby didn't make camps. He's just
Just straight middle bitching it right down the middle.
He's just
Yeah,
That's what he wants and he chooses. He doesn't give a shit.
Idea.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you meant by that. I was gonna piggyback off that if you had something, but yeah.
But then you didn't. Yeah.
Okay, wait. Pass the torch back.
All right, we're going back. I'm not done that though.
Okay. It's okay. We'll go back to. We'll go. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Bobby, it's all
Go ahead.
you.
Yeah. it's all you.
No, I'm waiting for Bree. She wants the.
I rudely
She wants the torch
interrupted you.
back.
I'm so sorry. It was the reptilian brain in me wanted to take control.
Okay,
I love
so
that.
like here's how I'll put it. I'm gonna straight middle bitch it.
Okay.
Here's what, and the reason I have to middle bitch it is because what I've always said is, and I've always used this as the example for this. Do I believe that reptilian shape-shifting demon space creatures run the world? Not necessarily. Like, I haven't seen enough evidence to fully embrace that as reality. However, if that did turn out to be the case, it certainly would not surprise me. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. All right. So
You won't be shocked.
So is that a middle bitch? I guess that's a middle bitch.
That's a middle bitch. Yeah, I believe that's typical. And you know what, Bobby? I'm gonna piggyback off of you because I'm gonna middle bitch it as well. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a solid 6 because I believe like there's some truth to it. I believe that some of it's a little bit of bullshit, and so it lands me smack dab in the middle when I look at all the evidence of it. I can't make up or down of it. It gives me all of it vibe. I think it could be kind of a cryptid. It could kind of be an alien. It can kind of be both. Why can't it be both? Who knows? It's all of it and everything. So I'm going to have to middle bitch it because there's just so much going on with it.
Mm. So it's almost like the water gets muddy with all the various incarnations of this thing, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bree, are you ready?
Bree,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like you told the waiter to say like, "Oh, just pick me last." I'm still looking at the menu.
I'm still looking at the menu. Yeah.
And you're like, "What kind of camps do you have?"
And thank you, Spooky. This is our cryptid scale of probability. We have fact, which is Bigfoot, middle bitch, which is all of us, and then sci-fi, which is vampires are not cryptids. It's a clear scale for everybody.
Are reptilians real? Fact. Are they an alien? Fact. They're not a cryptid. Absolutely not. They're a real alien flesh and blood situation. Fact. 150% for me.
Okay.
Shapeshifters into our political and banking system. I'm gonna sci-fi.
Okay, interesting.
I don't believe that shit.
Disappointed.
Definitely don't believe that it's the queen. Don't believe it's fucking Beyonce. I think that people are pausing on really shitty moments in time and that it gets all pixeled and people add CGI to it and it's the goofiest fucking conspiracy in the world to me. So I 100% sci-fi that. I feel like there's something for me to middle bitch, but I can't think of it right now. So I guess I am facting and sci-fiing.
Let me ask you this, Bree.
Sounds like you're middle bitching.
You have a very contentious.
No, I straight hard facted some and I hard sci-fied others.
But you don't have any problem hardcore facting the fact that there are reptilian extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials or terrestrials.
Yes.
But it is a bridge too far to assume that perhaps they have infiltrated institutions of power and possessed and or shapeshifted to and from elites that run the world. Where in that do we lose you? Like, why is one thing like, oh yeah, totally, and the other thing's like, nah, fuck that. You know?
Where's that line drawn at?
That's what I want to know.
Well, it's like saying I believe that there are aliens from Venus. It doesn't mean I think that they've controlled our political system.
Okay, fair enough.
Listen, I just don't believe that people like Beyonce is a shapeshifter and she's really a reptilian. That's just
I feel you on that one.
Yeah, I don't believe that
bonkers to
either.
me.
I feel you on that one.
No, I feel you. No, I'm just playing.
Happy Meal at McDonald's bonkers to me. Like you just wanted a little treat with your food.
I agree.
That makes no sense what I just said, but for some reason it felt right.
Okay.
I like it. I vibe with
Easter
it.
bombs.
For the record, I don't think Beyonce is a reptilian either.
Okay, well, what about the queen?
She is Illuminati as fuck, though. I don't fucking know. I don't know.
You know what?
I already told you, like, I already middle bitch the whole idea.
Actually, the whole thing is middle bitch. They could be, like, who knows?
Whatever.
Yeah.
I will middle bitch the idea that they have tried to infiltrate. I will middle bitch that they have some sort of wait. Only more corners. I found more corners.
Yeah, you're just backing yourself
in more. 3 different versions of middle bitch on this episode.
There really is.
I started thinking of the baby one. And I believe in the baby one.
Yeah, that's another like that's go on board with like some of the more outlandish stuff, but it's like I think you just don't want to believe that Beyonce is.
You know, I think I have issue with just the videos I've seen of people like
Sure.
Look at
so
that.
You have a problem with the quote unquote evidence.
I bet you 100% Bobby has watched them, in all honesty.
I just want to flick Tucker Carlson in the forehead so bad.
I always like to say about Tucker Carlson, my favorite thing is he had a lawsuit where he was sued because he was giving out the news, and he said in court that to his audience that if people believe he is giving the news, they are idiots. So just remember he says that about his audience. So
now apply that to everyone in the corporate media.
Oh, everyone. Yes, everyone.
All right.
Well, is the media controlled by reptilians?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Probably.
You think
so?
so?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
In what way though?
Why not?
Are they behind the scenes? Is it just an energy? I can believe more.
Yeah,
if
well,
it's like an energy that they're just there and they're like.
It's like if there is like forces in this world, whether we want to manifest them, visualize them as flesh and blood reptilian creatures or not. Mm-hmm. There are forces for. I do believe there are like forces for good and evil and everything in between, and different influences from different sources. So whether you want to call that, reptilians or not, I don't know. But there are forces that manipulate and pull the strings across the entire spectrum of what we would consider good and evil. For example, that's a fact. That's fact right there.
Yeah, this is a fact. This is a solid fact for
evil,
sure.
That would be an example of evil. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna middle bitch this one. I got nothing. I got nothing else.
I really want to talk about this comment right here. Because it has definitely come up that they can implant their soul into another human's body. Right. So it's like it's different to, I think, clone and be a shapeshifter than implanting their soul. I don't think that they would have the power to do anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was mentioning earlier, is like a lot of people think that like maybe once these celebrities reach this certain level, they're like replaced or possessed or something like that. So,
but then where are they going?
They're killing them.
They're either dead or
they're using them for their baby juice or whatever.
In Antarctica, I don't know.
Their mother's milk or whatever.
There's something to say about like the Forever 27 Club. Like I always thought that was weird.
That's some occult shit right there.
There's
I agree with that one.
And who was it? Was it you or my sister that brought up how weird it is that in like modern rap, kind of like SoundCloud rap kind of thing, that a lot of them are dying off of drugs and they're all like super drugged out, but they're like, are they dying off drugs? Are they being put on these drugs? And then, like what's going on there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a different episode. I'd love to get into with you, Brie, about social engineering and the hip hop community and all that stuff.
We'll get into that.
Gangster culture kills.
When I was a kid, it was all like they just like rapped about like weed and maybe 40s or something. Now these kids like SoundCloud rappers are just like, just do all the drugs. Like,
they're like all of them, do everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Just why not?
Slow down.
It's sad though, because they're also depressed. It's a weird thing about Satanists, Joe.
Joe, yeah, you know that we love the Satanist shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we're into it. People don't realize it is what it is. People are like, oh, fucking Satanism, the fucking devil. Go research it and look into it. It has literally nothing to do with like the fucking devil.
There are definitely factions, but like Satanism in general, just like modern day Satanism, they don't even believe in Satan as a deity. But there are definitely crazy factions out there, of course, that are
right. And when you get into the global elites and stuff like that, and the reptilians, the whole thing is like it's not true Satanism, as it's Luciferianism,
which is different.
Ancient occult Luciferianism or something like that.
Which, and it's like Lucifer.
Lilith,
shine bright like a diamond.
I was like,
I don't know. I have a problem with that. I think it could be these evil reptilians masking themselves as Satan. I don't believe that Satan and Lucifer was an actual bad thing.
Okay.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I'm Eastern
Devil worship
Orthodox
is
now,
not
but
Satanism. Yeah, it's just like
Agreed. It's not.
it's a really murky subject.
It is because people think it's so taboo and they don't want to actually look into it and realize what it's about. That's the biggest problem. Because as Bree told me, I would talk about it all the time, and Bree was like, "I'm not super into it." And then one day she decided to look into it, and she was like, "Oh, Jamie, you know what? You're right. It's not about this weird like devil. Let's kill children, drink fucking babies, scary blood, fucking. You know what I mean?"
Yeah, no.
fucking,
It was
you know
so
what I
funny.
mean?
I'll never forget because I was like, I feel like
Wicca
I've been saying this
posers.
the past
I don't know how
couple
we could
days.
be. I don't know how we could be Wicca posers because I don't practice
We didn't say
witchcraft.
anything about Wicca, by the way.
I don't
No one
practice
here said anything about
witchcraft.
Wicca.
Nothing at all.
So yeah, Wicca is
Cool.
different. I believe no one ever said anything about Wicca. Anyway,
Anyway.
it was funny because you were telling me about that, and then I just was like, you know what? Then I'm gonna learn about it. And then I'll never forget one day, Josh was like, "Why are you reading the Book of Satan every night now?" And I was like, listening to like the audio version, and I'm like, it's not that bad. Like it sounds like it would be bad, but it's not. It's not. It's not about being goth. That's funny.
That's
It's
funny.
just a style.
It's just go and look into it. And what it is, Satanism at the end of the day is looking into yourself, and you are your own power, and you create your own universe. You are your own God, and that's really the bottom line principles of what Satanism is at the end of the day. That's all.
Yeah.
That's
I think
super.
there's some
Which could
Super
scripturally
simple.
be tied to back to Satan, but we don't want to. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now.
I agree. I agree.
Maybe that's a good one because there seems to be.
Maybe
some
we should talk about
confusion.
it. Yeah, maybe we do need to clear some things up about the subject and the topic.
It appears to me.
Cool.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and middle bitch reptilians.
All right,
Hey,
and middle
if you
bitch
have
it.
no desires, then you're on your way to Buddhism, and that's dope.
That's dope. All right, guys. Thank you for coming to our live again. This is our second live of the night. We're not going live a third time. Don't worry, but we will be live tomorrow. So we will see you all. We love you. And thank you so much all for showing up. And
Thank you for everyone's support.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Welcome to Bobby's Cryptid Corner.